Continue working on your scene from the last movie, or use the scene named CP12 ObjectPaint.max. With the 10 trees now extracted and ready, your next step is to define them as paint objects. Select all 10 trees, expand the ribbon and go to the Object Paint panel. Click the Object Edit List button. A dialog appears. Since you have already selected the trees, use the Add Selected button to add them to the list. They are now defined as paint objects. Close the dialog when done. Take a look at the drop-down list that reads Tree 001. This is the first item in the list and is regarded as the default paint object. Choose instead the All Randomly option to make sure you have more variety. Also click the little arrow next to the brush tool and choose Paint with Object in List. This ensures that, regardless of what is selected in the scene, only the 10 trees are regarded as paint objects. Next, set the spacing to 10 to start with. This represents the distance between one tree and the next. You can modify it later. To randomize scale so that not all trees are of the same size, choose the Random Scale option and set the range from 80 to about 140. These are percent values, stating in this case that trees can be 20% smaller or 40% bigger than the original size. Again, you'll be able to experiment with other values in a moment. Finally, before you start painting, you need to define an object to paint upon. Use Alt-W to switch to a maximized perspective view. In the perspective view, select the 3 surfaces in the scene, that is, the terrain and the 2 sloped areas at bridge ends. To ensure these are the surfaces you want to paint on, choose the Paint on Selected Objects option. Zoom in on an area where you want to plant trees, and then click the Brush button. Go ahead and paint over the terrain and perhaps one of the sloped areas. There are a couple of things to consider. First, note that you can make changes to options you already established, like the scale values. Also, the trees planted on the slopes are oriented to the surface normals instead of pointing up. That's probably not an option you need for trees, so you can fix it in the Align drop-down by turning the normal option off. You could also consider randomizing the Z rotation. Once you're happy with the results, you can commit the changes to the scene. Repeat to other areas of interest. Don't forget the eastern shore. And commit when ready. Make sure your view angle is not too shallow when painting. The paint tool has to be able to pick up the normals of the surface you are painting on. A couple of things still need to be considered. First, you just added dozens of tree objects using simple brush strokes. To make scene management easier, you need to either place these trees on a separate layer, or at the very least create a selection set for them. Considering you named them properly by ensuring they have a distinct prefix, you can type Tree in Scene Explorer to select all scene trees. You can then easily create a selection set for them. The second consideration is to realize that cardboard trees, while effective because of their low poly count, do not handle shadows well. Mostly, they do not handle receiving shadows too well. Try rendering the scene. The trees turn out too dark because they're essentially made of flat panels casting shadows on one another. Therefore, you may want to consider turning that option off at the object property level. To do that, you select all the trees, and then right-click to access their properties. Disable Receive Shadows, and test render again. It looks better now, but could still need additional lighting. The rest of the scene is fine with a single daylight system, but you can help the cardboard trees by assigning a light that only affects them. In a different view, create an omnilight near the 000 origin. In fact, you can place it anywhere, as you will use it only in ambient mode. In the Modify panel, expand the Advanced Effects rollout and set it to ambient only. In the Intensity rollout, set the multiplier value to about 7,000. This seems over the top, but the scene is already set to use a daylight system with even higher values. Finally, click the Exclude button to access a Scene Objects list. This is where you exclude objects from being affected by this light. In this case, it's easier to switch the mode to Include and select all trees via the Selection Set drop-down. Click OK to exit the dialog. Render the perspective view again. The trees should appear marginally brighter. If you want, try another render, perhaps from atop the bridge, to see both the buildings and the trees in the backdrop. Save your scene. You still need to finalize it, and in the next movie, you create animated camera shots.